Okay, we're live. Hi, welcome back, everybody, to Carl and Rick Talk Risk. Rick, how's it going?
Hello, everyone. We're live. 5 seconds ago, we were not alive. We were dead. So it's alive.
Here we are. Um, Rick, it's not too late. We can still talk about the World Cup. It was only a couple of days ago. It's not a lot. Um, of course, Spain won. It sounds like you watched it live. I did not. I had one token Argentinian guy in my neighborhood who would shout and start singing every time there was a goal in a match in a like group stage match. But he was very quiet on the night of the final. So
Heck, I would have thought he would have been catatonic depressive. But anyhow,
yeah, probably yeah. So yeah, Spain won. Argentina didn't show up. I saw the highlights because the timing is I'm a few time zones different, and it was early morning for me. But I did find a it did cross my mind that risk managers have something to learn here, and I want to get your thoughts on it. Because I think for any soccer player, sports person, you prepare so much, and you have drills, and there's so much practice and experience that leads up. But once the whistle goes at the beginning and the game starts, that's gone. That's out the window. You're in the game, right? Your head is nowhere else but in this. And I remember that feeling from golf. I'm sure you remember that feeling in tennis and racing. Um, and I feel it a little bit as well when I do a trade in my personal life. Because you can read the what is it, the 10K for the financials. You can compare things. You can look at technicals. It's not my thing, but you could do it. But when it comes time to hit buy on a stock, you feel a little bit of pressure. You feel like a little, this is it. You're committing now. And you know what? I don't get that feeling as a risk manager. I'm not sure I've ever felt like this is the moment. This is what I've been practicing for. This is this has all been leading up to. And I wonder if there's situations where we can put ourselves more in the spotlight, a little bit more under pressure, feel like we're part of the action, which is, I know it's difficult because we don't have P&L responsibility. But I'm curious. You've been on both sides. What do you what do you think? Are there chances there for risk managers?
first off, I think, backing up, I think it's a huge problem for the risk management industry writ large. Okay. Uh, Virtually everyone connected with a risk department has zero skin in the game. None. Zero. Zippo. And with the increasingly specialization of risk management,
Hmm.
okay, uh, and the increasing digitization and mathematic, math, increasingly math heavy risk management, the people aspect of risk has disappeared. I
Hmm.
totally disappeared. I realize that, I have three hammers and, I just see three types of nails, but risk is human. And humans without P&L responsibility have very different ideas about P&L responsibility than humans with P&L responsibilities.
Hmm.
Uh, I'll give you a very simple example, which I might have stated before on this podcast. Well, we must be nearing 100 podcasts by now.
Very
So
close. Yeah.
so if I start repeating myself, hey, um, unfortunately, my wife has a short memory, so I could tell her the same sweet nothings, and it occasionally still works. Um, I teach derivatives, or I used to up until a few years ago. I teach derivatives to both undergraduate and graduate students, and in our program, our undergraduates have a co-op program. So when I teach derivatives, a large number of them will have been on a trading desk.
Mhm.
Whereas the MBAs, and yes, they have a corporate residency program as well, but because of the nature of the program and timings and whatnot, very few of them have ever been on a trading desk.
Mm.
And so when I talk about things such as the importance of volatility, when I make a joke like you never stand between a trader doing his first trade and the washroom, which is kind of a joke, but actually very germane to this and actually very real. Okay. Even though the students, undergraduate and graduate, float between the two classes because they're virtually identical and they have the same exams, same assignments, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
So they're hearing the exact same words when I discuss things like the importance of volatility.
Right.
But the undergraduates who have been there, who have seen it, who've seen how the models work, how the models fail, how the models go sideways, how the traders and the salespeople and the clients treat the models with hope and skepticism,
Mhm.
even though they're hearing the exact same words as the students who haven't been on a trading desk, they are internalizing them totally in a totally different way.
Yeah.
Totally different way. And there's many parts of business, many aspects of business to do this, which is in large part why most MBA programs demand significant work experience before you get in there, because
Yeah.
it's one part technique, but it's one part putting your human hopes, fears, and intuition into it and adopting it for whatever human context you're in. And that's the problem. Uh, until you get, I believe a significant part of risk training should be a period on a trading desk. Now,
Mm.
having said that, that would probably be disastrous. Okay, probably just be disastrous, not necessarily in terms of results. Okay, but in terms of temperament. Okay. Most risk managers, and here I'm focusing on financial risk managers in this context, but I think it extends across the board. Uh, most financial risk managers, the last thing in the world that they want to do is trade
Mhm.
by temperament. So, uh, and perhaps that's a feature, not a bug. Perhaps that risk managers don't have skin in the game is a feature, not a bug. I think that you at least need to have some battle wounds.
Yeah. Good to have a foot in both worlds, I think. We did a really fun episode a while back now about what if risk managers and traders switch places, and what would be the pros and cons for both teams. This conversation reminds me a little bit of that. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, we did
And
that? I,
yeah, we
I've
did.
got to
That
go
was a
visit. I got to go get an Alzheimer's test.
that was a good
I don't
episode.
remember that at all.
Yeah. But you know what I'm hearing, and also remember, I've only been a second line risk manager. I've never been on the front side, although I've done some consulting, and there you have to sell yourself a little bit. And I've spoken to you long enough that something has rubbed off, so I'll count that. Um, but risk managers are, yeah, they're not. I think you said the right word. Temperamentally, they're not suited to trading a lot of times, and to me, they seem like perfectionists, and I see it in myself a little bit as well, and I'm trying to get out of it. But they want everything, and that's why I mentioned practice and game time at the beginning, because in practice, you want to line everything up, you want to get your angles right. I mean, I remember practicing golf when I would lay a club along my toe line and one pointing where I want to, you use all these aids, right, to get you to swing perfectly, which you don't have at your disposal on the course. And you have to get used to the messiness on the course. You have to get used to the messiness in game time and in the financial markets. And I don't think risk managers get that kind of exposure. And yeah, it can lead to them not being willing to experiment, try new things, and deal with like unexpected consequences. So and especially if you're challenging the front office who does need to deal with this, you kind of need to understand it, right? You kind of need to live it a little bit. So I fully agree with your proposal that risk managers should be in that world at least for a little time to
First
understand
off,
it.
I am totally opposed to you using golf as an example. Until golf involves bodily contact, whereby the golfers you are competing against can physically attack you while you are using your club. I totally am against using golf analogies to discuss complex situations where you're talking about where outside influences matter. Um, yeah, I
Hey,
had
I
another
haven't.
point that I was going to make, but I forgot it.
Well, maybe it'll come back. The only bodily contact I've had in golf is when I tried to smack my bag after a really bad shot, and it came back and hit me in the forehead and cut me. So there was that.
Well, that's just stupid.
I know. I know. As if the bad shot wasn't bad enough. You make yourself bleed on a golf course. I mean, come on. Yeah.
Instant karma.
Yeah.
I'm still shocked that you're not an efficient markets hypothesis person, but anyhow, that you still research the companies that you invest in.
Yeah. Well, I I try, but yeah, but I do I get that feeling before doing a trade that I'm like, I don't know enough information. I've barely scratched the surface, and then I'm like, well, yeah, I'm never gonna know enough to trade. So what's stopping me?
You know, Again, we come back to, I've been an academic reviewer of, I think, three or four um, graduate programs in risk management. Okay, I've been on the advisory board of a couple. I've been a reviewer of three or four. So, do I have extensive knowledge of them all? No, absolutely not.
Mm,
But of everyone that I've looked at, there's absolutely no uh, sociology. There's
mm,
no psychology. There is no human element. Lots of calculus.
mm,
Okay. Uh, uh, Lots of finance theory, lots of utility theory. Quasi touches on psychology. Absolutely no sociology, absolutely no psychology.
right.
Uh, the other thing is there's absolutely nothing about, which is kind of the essence of this, about competitive strategy. Uh,
Mm,
Ultimately, in risk management, okay, conceptually, I see that you're dealing with several different elements. One, you're dealing with the stupidity and randomness of people.
mm,
Okay. One is you are dealing with the whims of the markets. Again, I'm kind of sticking to financial risk managers, but this also holds for enterprise risk managers, and
right.
perhaps even more so for enterprise risk managers. But the third element that I believe actually underlies this entire discussion is you're dealing with the competitive aspect of nature. Very rarely in risk analysis do you do analysis of what's our competitors' actions. In other words, you
Right.
very rarely do second level or third level or fourth level thinking. Okay.
Right.
And I am loathed as a prof for many, many, many reasons. But one of them is students do not want to do second level thinking.
Mm,
Um, they want to apply the formula, put down the answer and say, this is the answer and this is why it's important.
Yeah.
But they never want to do, well, if this goes, how likely is the answer to be relevant? What if the answer is not relevant?
Yeah.
And it's a second and third order, because if you're working for an organization, you are in a competitive environment in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Okay. Even if you're working for the government or for
Yeah.
a nonprofit, you are in a competitive situation in some way, shape, or form. And what we focus on um, is not those competitive situations. Whereas if you've got penal responsibility, particularly in a trading environment, those competitive reactions are all you think about, or
Yeah.
almost all that you think about.
Yeah. Oh, well said. Yeah. And you maybe you could have got away with it for, until around the start of COVID, when everything was, the zero interest rate period. That you just got to follow the Fed, right, and follow your central bank, and they tell you what's going to happen. But those days are over. The geopolitical risks, other things are popping up. Inflation is a factor again, and then you add AI to the list of things, and yeah, that second, third, fourth order thinking is increasingly valuable and necessary.
But there's another interesting fact, and here I might be out of date, uh,
Mm,
but historically, P&L responsibility jobs, the people with a competitive background in competitive sports
mm,
were basically sought out for those. So for a
yeah,
while there, being a competitive bridge player was considered to be, the inside line to a job at a hedge fund.
yeah,
I've never heard of a risk department with 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 one major exception, looking for people with a competitive sports background. The one exception was we did have an insurance company in Canada sponsor a board risk tournament on our university's lawn for a couple of years in a row to as a way to get people interested in applying to the firm, and B, as a way to select. So basically, I think that they
oh,
offered an internship to the top four finishers or whatever. That's the one exception.
okay,
But I've never heard of a risk firm saying, albeit not explicitly, because these things are never said explicitly, but I've never heard of a risk department saying we're in particular looking for people with competitive sports and background. And it's thought that, because that shows your discipline, that shows your focus,
yeah,
it shows your grittiness, yada, 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 but it also
can handle
shows your
pressure.
competitiveness.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah,
shows your competitiveness. It shows that you can handle pressure, and it shows uh, that you can learn to zig and zag.
yeah, yeah. No, well said. Yeah, yeah. There's probably an episode there on improvements we could make to the hiring process for risk managers, but we kind of touch on that every once in a while anyway. Um, Okay, Rick, I think it's good to be back on the air. I didn't say that at the beginning, but we've taken a bit of a break, bit of a summer break, which
Boy,
is
you've
nice.
taken a break. I've been
I've
working my
taken.
butt off. Okay. You've been taking a break. You've been the lazy bum. You're the one that has all this free time to lounge around.
I know, that is true. But I'm fresh and I'm back in the saddle, ready to go. So it's good
By
to
the
be
way, you
back.
mentioned Frontside. I just got to give a shout out to one of my favorite bands. No, I don't exactly love their lyrics, but one of my favorite bands is Buck Cherry. So go listen to Frontside.
Okay, nice. All right. Hope you enjoyed, and let us know in the comments if you have any thoughts. And until next time, cheers.
Have a good one.